In this video, I'm going to be teaching how to make this trendy bubu with side pockets. If you're interested in it, kindly watch till the end. So I'm going to be using a crepe fabric. I'm using 2 yards, but then I realized it was small later, so you can use about 2.5, 2.5 yards for the tutorials or for the dress. So first thing I'm going to be doing is to fold it into 4. You can see that's the center front, and then it is folded into 3, 4. So the center front is unfold, and the length of this bubu depends on you. So you decide on the length you want. First thing I'm going to be doing is to come down by 1 inch. This is going to serve as a guideline for the tutorial. So after marking, I'm going to be connecting the points together to get a straight line, and that line becomes our shoulder line. So from that point, I'm going to be coming down by 3 inches for the neck, and then I'll go in by 3 inches as well. Then connect the points together. After drawing in the points, if you have your armhole curve or your curve with you, just connect the points together, just like I am doing. After that, the next thing I'm going to be doing is to put in my shoulder measurement, which is 14. So whatever your shoulder is, you divide it by 2 and then mark it from the center front in. But then we are not going to use the shoulder since it is a kimono. You have to determine the length you want. So I'm going to be using the full length of this folded crepe, which is 17 inches. I'm going to be using the full length for the sleeve. And I think 17 is okay. You can reduce it to 15 or 13 if you don't want it long. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to come down by 1 inch at that side. You can come as low as 2 inches. Whatever works for you, go ahead and then do that. And from that point, I'm going to be connecting to the 1 inch I just dropped. So after connecting, next thing I'll be doing is to put in my shoulder to bust measurement, my shoulder to waist measurement, and then my waist to hip measurement. So whatever you have for your shoulder to bust, shoulder to waist, and then your waist to your hip, just mark it down. And I'll be repeating the same thing at the other side before connecting the points together with my ruler. So at this point, I have my shoulder, I have my bust, I have my waist, and then my hip measurement. We are not going to be using that, but I'm just using it as a guideline. So the measurement we are going to be using is the hip divided by 4. So you are going to be using the hip measurement on the bust, waist, and then hip line. So my hip by 4 is 10.25. So I'm going to be marking that 10.25 on the bust, waist, and then the hip line. So after marking, this is not the measurement we are going to be using. You have to add extra inches to it since it is a bubu and it has to be loose on the body. So you can go as far as maybe from, let's say, from 4 inches to 10 inches, depending on how big you want it to be. So I am using 4.5 inches here because my fabric is small. I wanted it to be bigger, but then my fabric was small. That's why I said you can use about 2.5 yards if you want it bigger. So I just connected the points together, and then I'm going to be determining the length of my sleeve. Since my shoulder to bust is 10 inches and then I dropped the shoulder by 1 inch, I'm going to be left with 9 inches. So if 9 inches is okay for you, you can decide to use 9 inches, but then I wanted to make mine 10. So I came down by 1 inch and then connected it together. So you can actually maintain the 9 inches or 8 inches if you are not that big. It will work. So this is what I have now. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to come down by 1 inch from my new point. So I just marked 1 inch down, and I'm going to be curving it this way through to the new 1 inch or the new length for the sleeve I just made. So just make a curve there like I have done to get your sleeve. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to drop the back by 1 1/4. You can drop it by 1 1/2. That is also okay. I'm doing this because the fabric is folded into 4. That means I'm cutting both front and back together. That is why I'm drawing the back neckline in. So after coming down, just connect the points in this way. And that will be all for the drafting of the bubu. So next thing I'm going to be doing is to cut it out. Note at that shoulder line, I'm going to be adding extra 1/2 inch to it when cutting. So you can decide to mark it down before cutting, or you can gauge and then cut it out. So whatever works for you, you go ahead and then do that. So at this point, I'm cutting out the side as well, and this is what I have. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to separate that part before taking out the back from it. So I just cut the sleeve because that part of the fabric was unfolded. So the next thing I'm doing is to take out the back from the front and then fold it back like it was so that I can trim or cut out the neckline for the front. So that is what I'm doing at the moment. Next thing I'll be doing from here is to open it up this way. So before you open it up, make sure you press it to get a center line at the neckline. So that is my center line over there. And that's where I'll be fixing my placket or placket. So next thing I'll be doing is to cut out the placket, and then I fused it with hard interfacing because that's what I have at the moment. You can use a medium interfacing if you have it. So the length of this is about 13 inches, and then the width is about 10 inches. So you have to press that one too. You have to iron it to get a center line as well, so that you know that you are placing that center line on the bubu. So the length of the placket or placket depends on you. So that is what you are going to be using to cut out the Ankara fabric or whatever fabric you are using for the placket. So like I said, this is 13 inches and then the width is about 10 inches. So you can actually place it on like this, or you can start directly on the neckline. That depends on how long you want it to be. I realize it will be very long when I start from the lower part of the neckline. That is why I took it higher. So I went up by 1 inch from the lower point. So at this point I realized my chalk wasn't doing well, but then I later changed it. So just pay attention. So after going up by 1 inch, I just connected the points together, and then I marked 1 inch on both sides as well. Note 1 inch because the placket is big. The size of the placket is 2 inches. If you are using 1 inch placket, that means you are marking 1/2 inch on both sides. So take note of that. So like I said, my marker wasn't coming, or my chalk wasn't showing too well here. That is why you can't see anything, but then pay attention. I later changed it with a blue marker and you're going to understand it well. So next thing I did was, after that 1 inch, I marked another 1/2 inch up, and then I connected the points together as well. Next thing I did was to use the chalk to indicate that pressed line or the iron line so that I get 3 lines on the placket. So I have 3 lines there, and then this is the point I use the blue chalk to indicate it. So like I said, from the center line or the press line, I went out by 1 inch on both sides, and then from the lower part of the placket I came up by 1 inch, and then after that 1 inch I went up by ½ inch again. So that is all I did. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to connect from that ½ inch I just marked up there. I'm going to be connecting from that point to the corner, as you can see me doing. This will help us turn the placket with ease without folds at the sides. So next thing I'm going to be doing is to mark the seams, is to match the pressed lines together. That is the center of the fabric I'm using for the placket, and then the center of the bubu together. And then I'm going to be pinning it down before taking it to my machine and stitch. So make sure you pin it down, otherwise it will move or it won't follow the pattern or direction of the bubu. So make sure you pin it down, and then you're stitching from that line through to the other side. So after stitching, next thing I did was to cut out the center line, and then when I got to that ½ inch, you cut to the sides like I've done, so you get something like this. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to turn the ankara to the 1 inch line. And then I'm going to be turning it on again. I'm going to be repeating the same step for the other side. Like I said, I wanted the size to be 2 inches. That is why I use this measurement. If you want it to be 1 inch, you have to calculate it as well before cutting the fabric for the placket. So next thing, you just push it in like I have done, and then you're going to press it for it to lie down flat. Pressing makes your work neat and nice, so make sure you press it down before you turn. So this is what I have after pressing, and then I'm going to pin it down so that the two stay together. You can pin as much as you want, so far as you want a neat work and you know what works for you, go ahead and then pin. So at this point, I'm cutting the excess off, and then I'll be working on the lower part of the placket. So I'm going to be folding that part in, but then whilst folding, I realized it was too bulky. So I'm going to be trimming parts of the inside fabrics out. So make sure you're not cutting on the outer part, you're cutting on the inner part, so that that place becomes lighter, and then turning won't be bulky. So at this point, I realized it was lighter for me, so you just turn it in like this. So after turning, you are going to stitch, but before I stitch, I'm going to be placing this in, which I bought for 3 Ghana cedis in Accra. So you're just going to put it in this way, and then you fold it on. So you can decide to put all the rope at the upper part in, or you can make it hang, depending on how you want it to be. Just put it there and then place this on top of it. I don't really know what it's called, and then I bought it in Accra. So after putting it in, you are going to stitch on top of it. So before I stitch, I always pin, so you can pin before stitching. After stitching, this is what I have, and you can see it's looking nice already. Next thing I'll be doing from here is to join the shoulder of the back to the shoulder of the front, so that I can work on the neckline and then the sleeves. So I'm going to be joining it by ½ inch, and then after that I went ahead to cut out this fabric on bias. So you measure the neckline and then you use it to cut, but then make sure it's about 2 inches bigger than the neckline. So what I did was to fold it into two this way, and then when I got the center, I folded the sides in as well. This full size of this is 2.5 inches. That is the width, and then the length depends on the size of the neckline plus 2 inches. 2 inches because you are going to be folding about ½ inch in before you stitch, like what I'm doing. So you are folding, about 1 inch in. So this is what I have. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to pin it at the wrong side. So you can decide to place it on top like this and then stitch all round, or you are going to open up this way. So this is the method I used. You are going to open it up this way and then pin it at the wrong side. So you'll be finishing it at the right side. So just place it on like this and then fold the raw edge in. And then you go ahead and then pin it through to the other side. You can decide to pin or you can decide to stitch straight. It all depends on you. So after stitching, I went ahead to trim off the excess from the neck. Note you can decide to leave it and then stitch. Nothing will happen, but I always cut it out. That is why I went ahead to cut it out. So next thing you are going to be doing now is to turn it, fold the raw edge in and then fold it on top this way. Since you've pressed it, you already know how you are going to turn it in. So this is how you are turning it to the right side. You can see I'm taking my time to do it because I want it to be perfect. So after pinning, I went ahead to stitch on top of it all round, and then this is what I have. So I'm done with the neckline at the moment. Next thing I'll be doing after the neckline is to fix the ankara on the sleeve. So I'm going to be fixing it on the sleeve. So the size of the ankara for the sleeve is 2 inches, but then I actually cut out 5 inches and then folded ½ inch on both sides. After folding the ½ inch in on both sides, you are going to be folding it on top of each other again to get 2 inches. So with the fixing of this, you can decide to use the process or the way we did the neckline by stitching ½ inch and then turning it and then stitching it on again. But then with this, I want to neaten the edge, so I'm going to open the folded ½ inch in, the folded ½ inch, and then I'm just going to place it on top this way, on top of it this way, and then stitch. So you can see both raw edges are meeting. So after stitching, I'll go ahead and then neaten the raw edges, and that will be okay for me. So I went ahead to fix it on both sides, and then the next thing I'll be doing is to work on the pocket of the bubu. So what I'm going to be doing is to fold the shoulders together and then measure from my shoulder to my waist. So my shoulder to waist is actually 16 inches, and then you remember the shoulder slant was 1 inch. So if you are measuring from the shoulder, make sure you add the 1 inch to it before you mark. So I have 16 inches here. I added extra 1 inch to it, making 17 inches because I want it to be a little bit lower from the waistline. So from the armhole, I got 5.5 inches. So I'm going to be making a notch over there so that I know where I'm starting my pocket. So you are doing this on both sides of the bubu. So you mark 17 inches on both sides. Next thing I'll be doing is to work on the pocket. The length of this is about 10.5 inches. So from the upper part, I'm going to be coming down by 2 inches. So after marking 2 inches, I'm going to be coming down by 6 inches from that 2 inches. That is the size of the pocket. Next thing I'll be doing is to go in by 1/2 inch on both sides. So I'm marking 1/2 inch on both sides, and then I'm going to be connecting the points together to get a straight line. After marking 1/2 inch on both sides, I'm going to be going up by 1 inch, and then I'll be coming down by 1 inch as well. So after marking the 1 inch on both sides, I'm going to be drawing in the shape of my pocket. So however you want the shape of your pocket to be, you go ahead and then shape it. So you can see that place is short. You can decide to make it a bit longer. You can add about 3 inches or 2 inches to it to make it a bit longer. That is if you want. I'm actually not going to use this pocket, so I'm okay with the length. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to place the right side of the pocket to the right side of the bubu, and then I'm just going to stitch on top of it this way. So after stitching, this is what I have. You can see I raised the 1 inch I marked later on both sides up, and I didn't stitch on that 1 inch. So next thing I'll be doing from here is to top stitch the pocket. So I was actually supposed to make a notch at the back. I didn't, but then I'll show you what to do later. So next thing is to put the other part of the pocket on top of it this way, and then I'm going to pin it down and then stitch 1/2 inch from that side through to the other side. So note you are stitching 1/2 inch. After stitching, this is what I have. You can decide to snip or make notches on the pocket, or you are going to leave it like that. So this is where I was supposed to make the notch after stitching before top stitching. So make sure you make the notch before you top stitch the pocket. So you're notching or cutting through to the edge. Make sure you don't cut out the stitched seams. So next thing I'll be doing from here is to turn the pocket out and then join the back part of the bubu to the pocket. So after turning it out, you are going to get something like this. So you see what I have. I have extra 1/2 inch on the side where I'll be joining or stitching the bubu. So this is all you have to do for the pocket. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to turn or flip the bubu on top of it and then pin from the armhole through to the hem of my dress. So like I said, I'm going to place this on top of it this way, and then I'm pinning from the armhole. So make sure the notched lines are meeting before you pin. Make sure the notched lines are meeting before you pin any other part. So after pinning the notched lines, next thing I'm doing is to pin the pocket to the back part of the dress this way before I pin the armhole area and then the hem. So you can decide to stitch through to the hem, or you can leave space where you'll be able to walk freely. It all depends on you. So this is what I have at the moment. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to fold that side in. Like I said, you can decide to leave space over there, or you can decide to close it. It all depends on you. So I decided to close it. So I stitched all through to the end, and then you measure the length of the bubu, and then you put in your body measurement. So if you are leaving space, you are going to be folding half inch in on the side. 6.5 inches what I stitched for the pocket, and then you measure your full length and then fold the hem in as well. So next thing we have to do from here is to fasten or add something to the placket where we'll be able to open and then close. So whatever you have for that part, you go ahead and then use it. Thanks for watching. Bye.